Hello, David at DSS UK, and today you join me on the salubrious site in a cul-de-sac in the middle of nowhere in a house built in 1976. A house that we've just performed an EICR on last week. I say we because it was me, Damo, and young Nathan, who's with us on work experience. Is it working? Is the time portal open? Past Dave, this is future Dave. I need you to send out a warning to your viewers. Is this working?
Was this in the carrier wave?
Damn it, Mr. Humbug, run a bypass. If we don't get through this boring prick, we'll make just another run-of-the-mill electrical video like that bloke in Berkshire or that Burke in Cambridgeshire or...
We're losing it!
No! Oh, they don't make them like that anymore. There you go. That's 1976 technology for you. An old domino board. Slightly newer version to the one that we see in many properties, but nonetheless the same. It's rewirable fuses in there. What we found last week when we came was that someone had wanged 30 amp fuse wire into these 5 amp lighting circuits. So I guess they popped in the past and no one had any 5 amp wiring to put in. That was always the downside of the rewirable fuse box, was that if Joe homeowner lacked the correct size fuse wire to replace a blow, then they would stick any old thing in there, a paper clip or a bit of copper or whatever, and then, you know, it would just work. And they go, that's fine then, isn't it? I don't need to worry about that. I'll get some 5 amp fuse wire tomorrow. And then of course they never did. Cooker, sockets, lights, I forget which way around it goes. I think it's down and up, or it might be up and down. Who knows? It's all on Easy Cert. It's all on my laptop right here. It's lights down and lights up. You probably can't see that, but there's an awful lot of red on Easy Cert there. And the reason for that is we have 2 kinds of faults to find here. I shall demonstrate them on the MFT shortly. The first fault is that, yes, we have a ring circuit configuration. So the wiring goes out from the board through all the sockets in the property, all the socket outlets, and back to the board. And there are 2 breaks on that ring. There is a break in line, there is a break in neutral. Surprisingly, CPC is intact and reading quite healthily. It's normally the other way around, isn't it? It's normally your line neutral okay, and it's the earth that's buggered. But no, the circuit protector conductor is okay. It breaks in line and neutral. We had a good poke around to try and find them, because naturally, as part of an inspection, you're going to be taking sockets off walls and other accessories. So chances are you're going to find where this kind of fault is. But we didn't. Not that we've had all the accessories off. What we targeted were the ones that were easy to access and the ones that have obviously been modified since original build. For example, that is an original 1976 socket. Guess the brand? I went for Crabtree, because Crabtree very much had this rounded edge, minimalist sort of look. And also the cooker circuit has a Crabtree, it's branded just there, Crabtree cooker control unit. Old school. They're not Crabtree, they're Volex, but then Crabtree and Volex are all under the Electrium umbrella. And we also found that a lot of these accessories, being as old as they are, nearly 50 years old, same as me, they're quite worn. We were getting some quite high resistance readings when performing R1, R2 testing, for example. Some faceplates were just a bit loose with stuff, some were a bit stiff to get things in, some of the switches a bit clunky. We replaced a couple of sockets while here. That's a new Hager one on there, that's Demo put on. I'm going to stick in all new Hager white plates just everywhere. And hopefully, as a consequence of that, as I go around naturally, I might find where things are broken. I say hopefully because what the homeowner has done is fucking recarpeted the whole place. Never stick in your final finishes until you know your infrastructure is okay. So get your electrics and your plumbing done before plastering, before painting, before carpeting. I know people want to get those final finishes all in and done. And yes, it looks very pretty, I'm sure. But you've got to make sure that everything's okay beneath it. I don't know, for example, if there are any junction boxes under these floors that I've got to get to. What I do know is, if I come to the bedroom here, that's not an original socket, and that's not an original socket. So there may be something under the floor here. There might just be the faceplate's been changed over the years and this all original wiring, or it might be that this room only had one socket as built and someone spurred another one off. And if they spurred it from a junction under the floor, look at that sea of shag pile between me and potentially iffy wiring.
On a straight V deployment. Second team on left flank. Advance on axial 664. 40 meters in, bearing 221, there should be a stairwell. You want sub-level 3.
Bundy, you twat. Over here, on me. We have to warn the viewers while the time portal is open. We never saw the invasion coming. They figured the human race had run its course and their time had come. Vicious bastards. Those teeth and their claws. It was the cats. The fucking cats, you understand. They simultaneously rose as one against us. And they're winning, damn it. They mostly come at night. Mostly. Sergeant Kirchner, where are your people? Anybody in D block?
That's a negative. We're all in operations.
Watch your backs and check your targets. We're looking for civvies in here. It gave me a rash right round my arse between my bollocks and my backside, so I stopped using it. Right, moving on. While we're here, there are other things to see here. We weren't happy with this bathroom light because it wasn't earthed. There was an earth wire up there. What was up there was a busted ceiling pendant and a whole load of tomfoolery. It is actually earth now. We did get it sort of fixed, but it needs proper junctioning off up there. It's a mess. But there's 4 circuits here, and we have lights up and lights down. Lights up and lights down are on a borrowed or shared neutral. I'm not going to go into what a borrowed or shared neutral is at the moment. Future Dave can do that if he gets an opportunity. I think we're barricaded securely enough here in operations to take the time to show what pass David is seeing on his customer site using my TIS TAC-9 military field console.
In the UK, the most common variant of the borrowed or shared neutral can be found in domestic dwellings constructed or rewired from the late 1960s into the 1980s, and was a method employed by house builders of that era to save themselves a few quid, thus demonstrating house builders in prior decades were penny-pinching bastards, just as they are today. Although today they additionally like to troll us with new and quite baffling design decisions, such as detached garages with purely 13 to 16 amp feeds, and consumer units located centrally within the property where pulling in new circuits is dreadfully difficult. A simplistic explanation of the borrowed neutral phenomenon is as follows. 2-story houses may have 2 lighting circuits, one for the ground floor and one for the upper floor. This seems to have proven confusing for builders of the past when it came to installing the landing light at the top of the stairs, which has switching on both floors. In such an arrangement, power would be supplied by the ground floor circuit, which fed through the lower switch, across a pair of wires, colloquially known as strappers, that run upstairs, and out through the upper switch to the light bulb. Such an arrangement may be deemed as all well and dandy, except that our light bulb requires a return neutral to operate, which either meant the time and expense of running another wire all the way back down to the ground floor circuit, or a sneaky cheat by splicing it into the neutral of the upstairs lighting circuit, which was already present on that floor. The sneaky cheat was much favoured, as 3 objectives were easily achieved. Number 1, the landing light bulb works. Number 2, the saving made on cable allows our builder to pocket some extra beer money. And number 3, enough time is saved on the job to get down to the pub early enough to piss that pocketed cash up the wall on popular alcoholic refreshments of the day, including, but not limited to, Skol, Brew 11 and Harding Black Label.
Harding Black Label.
Meanwhile, at the house, the neutrals for both circuits are buzzing away back to the fuse box, so there was no problem, electrically at least. Nonetheless, this builder's bodge was bad practice, because if Joe homeowner wanted to replace a light fitting upstairs with something Mrs homeowner had just procured from Woolworths, Texas Home Care, or British Home Stores, he would sensibly isolate the light sub-circuit and remove the old fitting. However, while he was dicking around with the wiring, should Mrs homeowner switch on the landing light, which was powered by the still energized lights down circuit, the disconnected neutral of the wiring Joe was working upon would float up to 240 volts, as it is now energized through the landing light bulb. If Joe touches this live wire, he will quickly and involuntarily evacuate his bowels into his boiler suit. Although that doesn't sound too earth-shattering in of itself, it should be borne in mind that heavily soiled workwear is perhaps viewed as the best-case scenario, especially back in the days of gender stereotypes and before routine installation of RCD protection. This method of cross-connecting the lighting was much frowned upon and was done away with somewhere in the 15th edition in the 1980s. However, plenty of properties still exist with such an arrangement present. Poncy wide boy sparks, who today get about flashing gold cards and swapping out fuse boxes for new consumer units without properly inspecting and testing final circuits, often come a cropper when they split lights up and lights down across two RCDs or RCBOs because of the leakage trip whenever the landing light is operated, with current being sourced through one residual device and sunk through another. When encountered in the wild, it may be advisable to connect both circuits to the same protective device to reduce the risk of shock caused by ineffective isolation for those who may tackle maintenance tasks, such as a homeowner or a cheapskate landlord. On new wiring today, the landing light tends to be powered by the light sub-circuit with a 3-core cable sent downstairs for the lower switching function, a concept that panics builders and Poncy wide boy gold card sparks. But if you draw it out for them with colourful crayons, the fuckers can usually haul the right wires to the right places.
Simpler times. And it seems that back then, in the event of a borrowed or shared neutral, one should always take care to... They cut the power.
What do you mean they cut the power? How can they cut the power, man? No animals.
Secure that shit, Curl. Everyone, fall back to the APC. Immediately! I've switched to the Shomananu CA6117, and look at this. This is my old Stanley toolbox. Isn't that just made for the job, eh? Look how well that fits in there. And then I've got my leads there, my clamp that goes with this instrument. It all just works, mate, because this comes in a soft case, and I've said a million times before, I don't like soft cases. It's a very expensive bit of equipment to put in a soft bag to throw around on the back of the van. So I've reemployed this case here, which is rather marvellous. And in the top there, I've got my probes and clips, my PAT adapter. There's a separate video about that. Among other things, we've got a TIS earth leakage clamp meter. Not the best one, but it's in there. That's the remote probe. That's the Chauvin can use for some of the dead testing. I don't carry a plug top lead around with me, so I use this thing plus my normal leads for any sort of live test or whatever. Lock-off kit is all in here as well, by the way. I've got a couple of clippy leads, Luden board magnet. They come in jolly handy. An Armeg case just because I had one. That's my little tester for 5 amp lighting socket circuits. That was mentioned in another video. There's a cal card in there. Exciting stuff, I know. But that's my new go-to setup. And I've been favouring the 6117 recently over other testers. You know me and my testers. I have plenty of them, and I like to swap them around every now and again and do the do with them. I've got to say the battery life on this thing's fucking mad. It's still showing as full battery, and this is after we did an EICR with it last week, and I can't remember the last time I charged it. It has got a big hefty proprietary battery. Sarge, look where the team is. We're directly into the primary heat exchangers.
Look, we can't have any firing in here. I don't want any weapons fire in here.
What the hell are we supposed to use, man? Harsh language? Although, personally, that's actually quite handy, as one does tend to have quite the lexicon of profane expression available at one's disposal.
I want rifles slung. Flame units only.
Movement.
What's the position?
Can't lock in. Multiple signals. They're closing.
Go to infrared, people. Look sharp.
It's off scale, man. They're all around us.
Maybe they don't show up on infrared at all. Oh no, wait, they would because they're cats.
Sarge! Let's rock!
Who's firing? God damn it, I ordered you to hold fire. I say, I do believe they're coming out of the goddamn walls. That's why I'm going to start keeping a dildo packed in with my MFT. Anyway, let's get this motherfucker set up so we can see some duff numbers in action. The socket circuit. Not only does it have 2 ring breaks, it also has a shite IR. So yeah, what do we get for that? 0.45. That's not good, is it? We want it over 1. 0.45 means if we change this board out and people started using the installation, it ain't going to stay on for very long. So I've got the 6117 at the moment. You can hear it clacking away. If you look at Chauvin's channel, there's some how-to instructions by some handsome chap on how to use this thing. So the CPC is the one that's reading okay at 0.87. I'm going to try and hold the camera and do this wank-handedly. Switch my clips to either line or neutral. Come on, David. There we go. I think we're on. And what we see now on the Chauvin's screen is over 40 ohms. Not even trying, mate. And that's the same for line and neutral. So we've got 2 proper breaks. Now what we can do with that, if we can't find the breaks, potentially is to split this into 2 separate radials. But it's quite easy to do that if you know where one break is. But if you've got 2 breaks that are in different rooms, that's going to be a lot trickier to do. If those breaks are at the same point, then fine, you can do that split. But if you've got breaking line going down one side and breaking neutral going down the other side, which are in different places, you're not going to be able to split those circuits up very easily. So we do really need to fix at least one of these to be able to do something with this. If we can fix one of them, we can potentially do a split and then put in a couple of 16 or 20 amp circuits just to get this new board on the wall. If we can fix both, it'll be ideal, of course. But, well, less of me waffling. A swig of the strong stuff. Oh yeah. Okay, all accessories, all socket accessories and fuse accessories are off the wall. I'm going to do an installation resistance test on this socket circuit between live cores and CPC. So that's line and neutral linked together. And testing respective to the CPCs. Normally I would do an IR test with the CPCs reconnected to the earth bar, so we're taking into account all parallel paths. The reason I'm not doing that at the moment is A, because I want to do some more end-to-end testing to make sure I'm not bugging up my R2 reading, which we saw was about 0.88 earlier, and B, because this fault is present quite without any parallel paths present. So let's get it working just on the circuit wiring before we even worry about parallel paths. What I mean by that is that if I were to undertake the test now, we can see we're testing at 250 volts. I'm going to hold this in until I get a green tick, which means the reading is stable. There we go. And if I let go now, bingo bongo, 0.04. That's no good, is it? We want to see a 1 at least, not a 0.0 anything. I've got one socket out here, which is one of the original sockets. You can see there evidence of thermal damage. It's all very crusty, copper's gone green in places. We did find something similar on a socket downstairs, which we replaced. But obviously, you know, it doesn't look good, does it? In fact, those neutrals look like they're about ready to just pop out and drop out. It could be the cause of our problem, you never know. What I'm going to do now anyway, because all of these are kind of fucked. I mean, they're all 48 odd years old. I'm going to go around now and replace all these white plates. I'm hoping that simply redressing these, getting some grommets on the metal back boxes, getting them all restripped back to good, terminated onto new outlets, will hopefully have some kind of effect on my numbers. Found this as well, evidence of DIY botchery. Probably a single outlet here originally, and someone's decided to make it into a twin, and then they found there's a shitload of woodwork in the way, so yeah. My mummy always used to say there are no monsters. No real ones. But there are.
Hey, look, Bundy and Sergeant Kirchner aren't dead, man. Their signs are real low, but they ain't dead.
So we go back in there and get them.
Fuck that, are you crazy? I ain't going back in there, I ain't doing that.
You can't help them. Right now they're being sat upon quite comfortably and softly paddled, just like the others.
This ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man.
Right. We've got 7 cans of yard enforcer cat deterrent.
I say we roll them in there and nerve gas the whole fucking nest.
Let's just bug out and call it even, okay?
I say we take off and nuke the entire site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Hold on 1 second. This is an emotional moment for all of us, okay? This is clearly an important species we're dealing with, and I don't think that you or I or anybody has the right to arbitrarily exterminate them.
Well, I believe Jamie Blatant has authority here. This operation is under military jurisdiction, and Jamie is next in the chain of command. Am I right, Corporal?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he can't make that kind of decision. He's just a cunt. No offence.
None taken. Although, come to think of it, we don't have a spaceship or a nuke.
Christ on a bike.
Well, that's just great. That's just fucking great, man. Now, what are we supposed to do? We're in some real pretty shit now, man. This is it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
You better just start dealing with it, R-Blaster. Listen to me. Because we need you and I'm sick of your bullshit. Now, I want you to get into a terminal, pull me up some kind of floor plan file, cat flap access. Anything that shows the preferred scratching post positions of this place.
Okay, I'm on it.
R-Blaster, just relax. I'm having to listen to Woman's Hour because you're working on your own in the middle of nowhere like this. It's a bit quiet and you need a bit of background noise. I've changed that dodgy socket on the landing, the one with the thermal damage. Well, let's see if that's made any difference whatsoever. Starting with line. Well, I'll be goddamned. So we should get the same number for neutral, or near as damn it, I want to see it within 0.05. Oh, I'll tell you what. The neutral's giving me a better reading than that. It means two things. It means the source of the ring break was that socket on the landing. The second thing to mention is that I've still got all the other white plate accessories to change anyway. I'm still changing them. So as I do that, I'll be tightening up all the connections, and I bet later on we'll get these numbers at a better match. I wasn't going to work today, but I've got to work today and film this for some YouTube revenue if possible, because I just spent over $1,000 on my cat's ass. I had a constipated cat, took her to the vet, and they charged over $1,000 to squeeze the fucking fudge out of her. That's vets for you, because what else can you do? It's just like, it's not like there's loads of other places you can take them and they're all just going to be charging the same. Next time that fucking happens, I'm getting my Bosch out and one of my core drills, and I'll take care of it myself. Right, back to Woman's Hour then, I guess, and changing out more of these white plates. Check that out for old school retro. Mem. Not Volex. For some reason they decided to fit a mem there. Don't know why, but I like it. Anyway, white plates everywhere else, or new white plates everywhere else. What I'm hoping to find now, if I do my ring end to ends, is that we have sane numbers. So, fingers crossed, folks. 0.53 online. Let's switch to neutral. Should be about the same number for neutral because it's the same size of wire going over the same wiring route. Oh, lovely, yes, look at that, 0.52 on neutral. So a little bit of a loose connection before on the line we saw. That's been tidied up as part of this. Let's see what happens on CPC, which was never broken, but 0.88 on CPC. I think the maths says we're expecting sort of 0.86, 0.87, yeah, 0.88. Fucking A. I'll take that up the ass. Okay, so 0.52 for line plus 0.88 for CPC divided by 4, because there's 4 conductors, 2 paths going back to the board there. Should give us a reading of about 0.35 ohms per socket, at least for the ones on the ring. not the ones that are spurred. I did say in a previous video, Alex Ali Pali, in fact, that I was looking at a Q-Tech device that was far more portable to run around with doing like R1, R2 readings, because an MFT is a fine bit of kit, but running around with something that's sort of lumpy and heavy, well, it can be a bit of a pain in the arse, can't it? You look like the dog's cock doing it because it's an instrument, but yeah, a bit of a pain in the arse. Better to have something more portable when you're scurrying around getting your R1, R2 readings. So I've got sourced myself one. Not Q-Tech though, of course. Me being the Chauvin fanboy, I've gone for their CA6522 mega ohm meter. This has got a massive full-scale deflection for insulation resistance testing. In fact, if I do an insulation resistance test without the leads connected to anything, just hold down the button there. And looks a lordy, look at that, we're in the giga ohm range. I must do something useful with that on camera at some stage. I'm going to do something useful with it right now, in fact. Let's just zero that. It does make a horrible noise. I've got it set to make an alarm noise of anything under 2 ohms, I think it is. Yeah, alarm 2 ohms. So there we are nulled. The only flaw with this thing is that it forgets it's null if you turn it off. So the trick is to just, well, leave it on resistance. And what will happen is, to save batteries, it'll just start bleeping and then time out after a few minutes. And then when you pick it up again and hit the test button, it'll wake up with its null settings still retained. As long as you don't actually physically switch it off, you're all right for the day. Hopefully, at our sockets, we should start seeing numbers somewhere about what we expect. And I said about 0.35, 0.37. I can live with that, baby. And we should see that sort of number, well, pretty much everywhere. And this is a spur socket here, so you might see a slightly higher number here. Oh no, exactly the same. Lovely stuff. But it's just so much easier to run around with this than with something like that. And I can just leave that set up at the board with all its leads, ready for doing IR testing and things like that, while I go around with something more portable. I'll tell you what, this is looking cock on so far, isn't it? Are you feeling my cock? We are in the summer house. Let me show you the summer house. Rather optimistically called the summer house, perhaps. It's more of a garden shed with an armchair in it. And we have a couple of socket outlets here. I'll show you the distance to the main house. That's all the way over there. It's a big garden, isn't it? We've got a couple of these sockets in the summer house. The reason I'm taking them off is because, as you can see, they are RCD sockets. They have built-in RCD protection. That's because these were a later edition. So these have gone in at a point where there was no RCD protection at source, and someone needed to provide socket outlets that complied with requirements for RCD protection, and they've run an armoured cable, spurred these off the lounge sockets. Bingo bongo, your required protection is out here. Well, I'm not sure that these did meet the requirements, the protection of the day. It was 18th edition amendment 2 that kind of said, yeah, okay, these are all right to use for additional protection, if I remember rightly. There's a video about it somewhere. Anyway, they're all fed via a 2-pole rotary isolator. Just make sure my probes are nice and tight in there. What are we getting? So that's the highest reading of all, but then that's because they are spurred and they are the furthest distance from everything else. Something to mention with these things, these RCD sockets will fuck up an IR test. So you have to make sure they're disconnected. What we need to do now is find that pesky IR fault. Okay, let's have a look at our actual IR number on this socket circuit. 0.33-ish. Well, we want it to be 1 million ohms as an absolute minimum, so we are way out here. We need to get that number up. Well, that's supplied to the summer house. Off a rotary isolator, as I said. As you can see by the rust and the glistening nonsense, that enclosure's compromised. I'm not quite sure how everything's got in there, all that gunk and moisture, because it's not compromised on the top. Well, I guess the seal just wasn't any good on it. So with that disconnected, that spurs off a socket inside. Our IR number should be okay, but obviously this is fucked and needs wholesale replacement. Always check your exterior enclosures on an EICR, especially if you've got an IR fault. It's going to be the most obvious place for insulation to be compromised, water ingress to be present. Just take a look at that. How much water is sitting within the outer boot of this thing. So all this has been submerged, which is why it's all rusted to shit. I kind of prefer storm glands these days. That's what I tend to fit. But it goes to show with these exterior glands, you've really got to make sure that you leave enough cut out at the bottom that water can escape from. Got another box here that I can put on, so I'm going to get that sorted out. The Duff rotary isolator has been replaced. We're ready to do a insulation resistance test once again. Oh yeah, look at that, look at that. Again, it's kind of jumping up. It's not really settling, is it? Let's release it and start it again. What number do you put down? Oh, hard to say really, isn't it? Even if I were to put down the lowest number, 26, it's still a pass. It's not going to trouble an RCBO if I were to upgrade the board. So I'll put down whatever I get after the tick appears. There we go, because the tick sort of indicates that it's been under test for long enough. 316.8. Lights down also had a poor IR reading, and we are seeing 0.55 mega ohm, 500 kilo ohms. That's no good, is it? That's no good, and that's just on lights down. Lights up reads okay. Lights up's reading 39 mega ohm, something like that, which is kind of surprising because lights up's in a bit of a shit state. All these pendants are all very old, very worn. I'm going to replace all of those today as a matter of course anyway. But downstairs what we have is a bunch of class 1 lights. I actually have a clause in my inspection limitation, my inspections, that says I'm not necessarily going to take down decorative light fittings. Just because it depends on the circumstances. Sometimes taking them down can cause more trouble. You might end up breaking something, causing decorative damage. I've had stuff that I've taken down before and then gone, oh shit, how am I going to get that back up again? These aren't so bad, so I was just being a bit of a lazy git. What we did do was take a wander lead and do an R2 test to confirm that these metal fittings are earthed. And we took our R1, R2 at the furthest point of the circuit, which is out here. It's a nice, easy to reach, but grotty looking pendant. One thing that was noted on the report was that this light here, well, you can see for yourself, that's just hanging off the wall, basic insulation on show, so that's probably going to be my go-to for starting. If there's no obvious reason for an IR fault, we can start breaking it down because it is just a radial circuit. It bounces from room to room, all the way out to the front of the house. We can disconnect it, say, in here, and then if the numbers are good in that room, we perhaps don't need to look too much in there, and we can concentrate our efforts in here. Whatever, I'm hoping it won't take too long to find. But, well, let's see if we find anything interesting, in as much as any of this shit is interesting. I'm just going to put a box or something up there, because obviously that wall light be fact, mate. These are the lights I've started taking down. As I take each one down, I do an IR test on it just to see if it's made any difference to the circuit. You can see the quality of the wiring isn't great, so I'm just going to tidy it all up. Put this one down in the kitchen. As I say, tested each time, didn't really make much difference. And then I took one down and did a test, and whoa, look at this, 69, dude. Can't be the 69. It's the light in the utility, but it's not the wiring. It is the luminaire itself, one of these bar spotlight affairs. And if I do an IR test on that, so I've got my line and neutral together and I'm testing to earth, this is what's dragging us down to 500 odd kilo ohms, according to my little show van. So it's this luminaire that's dragging the whole circuit down. Obviously it's got LED lamps in at the moment, but it would have had halogen in originally. Made in 1998. Definitely would have been running with halogen lamps for some years, because LEDs have obviously only become more prevalent more recently. So I suspect what has happened is the heat from the halogen lamps has damaged some of the wiring internally. A new pendant up there or something, and that will be back in service. Nice, quick, easy to find IR.
Movement, it's inside the complex. They're inside the perimeter. They're in here.
Damo, stay cool.
There's movement all over the place.
It's game time.
Signal's clean, range 20 meters.
They found a way in. Something we missed.
We didn't miss anything. 18, 17 meters.
Something under the floor? A cat flap we didn't duct tape up? I don't know.
15 meters.
Definitely inside the barricades.
14 meters.
That's right outside the door.
Man, this is a big fucking signal. 12 meters. 11. 10,
Remember, short controlled bursts.
8 meters, 7, 6.
It can't be, that's inside the room.
It's reading right, man. Look.
Well, you're not reading it right.
5 meters, man. 4. What the hell?
Oh my God. Medical! Get to medical!
Blaster! Where's Richard R. Blaster?
Kenny, rescue Kenny. She's in a wheelchair.
Get away from her, you bitch! Then he didn't pay his bill, so I went round his house and kicked the wing mirrors off his fucking BMW. The prat. Anyway, let's get on with this. Lots of accessory changes since you were last with me. Lots of accessory changes. About, probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours. No, over 2 hours of accessory changes. All switches, all sockets, various lights, all those pendants upstairs. Let's see what difference it makes to our IR reading for lights. If you'll recall, it was about 500 kilo ohm, which we traced down to the utility lights. We're now getting 66 million ohms by the time the tick appears. So yeah, that's perfectly fine. I would say perfectly fine. Interestingly, the kitchen light, as you can see, is still down at the moment, because like that utility light, if I IR test that luminaire itself, it drags everything down to just 2 million ohms, which is a pass. I could leave that in place, but if the circuit is sitting near sort of the 66 mark and that one light fitting drags it down to 2, it's not a good sign, is it? Oh, it's bright in here. Isn't it bright in here? Guess why it's bright in here. Remember this? Just turn it off. And back on again. Ooh. Probably a little oversized for the room, that thing. 1800mm twin LED batten. Asking if you remember it because I pulled 6 of those out of that dance studio, if you recall, and 2 of them exhibited failed solder joints. They're Knightsbridge products, 2017 stamped. 2 of them had failed because of solder joints that had gone bad, and I pulled one apart in my not very exciting track lighting video and made a repair of it. So all 6 of them are back in business and are looking for a new home, and voila, mwah, waste not, want not. This one has been found a new home, perhaps only temporarily. I'm sure the new owners, when they buy the place, will come in and go, fucking hell, that's a bit bright for this space, isn't it? And not quite the pretty decorative thing we perhaps want in our kitchen. But it's a functioning, working luminaire at present, and if they want to relocate it to the garage, I'm sure it'll serve in there very well. So I shall punt that on cheap. Not free, because I'm still going to be supporting the warranty on it, you know. So I'll do the guy deal because it basically gets these things out of my way, because these are what are pulling down the insulation resistance on that circuit. It's off the wall, 48 years after going on the wall. A little bit of it still left on the wall actually, because I had to break it off. I've got to get that screw out. Just put in a new earth. Tails are obviously dead. You just missed Pablo, he came and did a fuse pull for me. Actually, I'm not going to bullshit that because I'm sick of the fucking DNOs. I tried to play it their way over the years. Used to get Hastings to do my isolators and things, and then they said, oh no, we're not having that anymore. You've got to use us at our exorbitant prices. Unless you're like Octopus Energy or someone, in which case, yeah, you can do whatever you want. And EV chargers, yeah, you just pull the fuse and stick your gubbins in the meter box. We don't care. But anybody else like me, they're like, oh no, so fuck you DNOs. I shall pull your fuse. Your own fault. There's a smart meter out there. You should have built in a means of safe isolation for me into the fucking smart meter, you bastards. Anyway, new board going on today. I'm running down my Luden stock. A few RCBOs left. Why am I running it down? Because Denman's have closed last week, and they were my supplier of Luden gear. Very sudden. I got an email Friday night saying your Denman's branch is now closed as of now. I'm like, oh, okay. I would have quite liked to have had a bit of a heads up. I think it's rather disrespectful that me and other regulars there perhaps didn't get a chance to say goodbye to the fellas. I know I was there a couple of weeks ago, didn't have any inkling that they were about to be dismissed. So yeah, it's just like they're gone. Weirdly, we used to have Denman's and Rexel in the same area on the same industrial estate. It used to be New Inn Air and Wilts, and then New Inn Air became Denman's, Wilts became Rexel. Then Rexel disappeared after being there for only about 3 or 4 years, and Denman's moved into their premises from where they had been, and now they've all gone. And I get this email saying your nearest Rexel is now an hour's round trip away in North Coventry. And well, I'm not going there then, am I? So yeah, it's a bit of a shame because they had the off-the-shelf Luden stuff, and now I'm going to have to look at something else. Might go Navitas, you know. There's an independent who sells Navitas. Anyway, I better get the hell on with it because it gets very dark very quickly at this time of year, and I've got this to sort out. I just hear a cat somewhere.